Okay, gotta admit, when I first saw this title, How to Be a God Over All Your Problems, I was like, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah, it does grab your
It
attention.
does grab your attention,
Yeah.
right? But thankfully, this deep dive is not about uh, building altars or anything like that.
Right.
We're going to be exploring some really fascinating ideas from this lecture about taking control and realizing the power we already have in our lives.
Yeah, the speaker really dives right into it and
Yeah.
actually tackles, the idea of blasphemy head on.
Oh, really?
But he flips the script on what we normally think of as blasphemy.
Yeah, because usually you think of blasphemy as like saying a certain word or taking the Lord's name in vain or something like that.
Right, but the speaker, he uses the example of someone who's like, acting super holy in a place of worship,
Right.
but then, completely contradicts that with their behavior outside of that.
Yeah, like a total hypocrite.
Totally.
Okay, so what is he saying that blasphemy really is then?
Well, he's connecting it to the idea of us giving away our power. We think we need something outside of ourselves to solve our problems.
Yeah.
But what if that godliness, that ability to overcome, is already within us?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then he takes this idea even further and he completely redefines God.
He does. Yeah, he moves away from this idea of a personified God.
Okay?
And he presents God as this, like, impersonal energy, like gravity or electricity.
I love that because everyone gets gravity. Like, you can't argue
Yeah.
with gravity. It's just there. It's just IS
Yeah.
affecting everyone.
Right, exactly.
And electricity, I mean, that's powerful stuff. I mean, we all know we can use electricity for good and bad.
Right, exactly. And I think that's what he's getting at. It's not good or bad in itself.
This energy.
Yeah, this God energy is neutral. It's all about how we use it.
I see. So how does that tie into our problems then?
Well, that leads to this point about how most of us are unconsciously worshiping our problems.
Wait, worshiping our problems, what does that even mean?
Well, think about it. When you're constantly worrying and stressing and you're letting these problems just like take up all your mental space,
Yeah.
aren't you giving them power? Aren't you feeding them your energy?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really good point. So then the question becomes, what are we giving our energy to?
Exactly.
Are we making our problems bigger, or are we feeding our own potential to overcome them?
And this is where the idea of frequency comes in.
Okay.
He talks about how we've shifted from this world that was like, dominated by physical strength
Right.
to a world where like the strongest frequency wins.
Okay, I've heard about this frequency thing before, but I'll be honest, it's always been a bit vague to me.
Sure.
Can you, like, break it down in a way that makes sense for people?
Yeah, totally. Think of it like this. Every thought, every emotion that you have, it vibrates at a certain frequency
Okay.
and like attracts. Like,
Oh.
so if you're constantly focused on negativity, that's the signal you're sending out.
Oh.
And that's what you attract back into your life.
So it's not about ignoring problems or pretending they don't exist.
Right.
But it's about being aware of, like, what energy we're putting out there.
Exactly. And the speaker, he ties this directly to the idea of conviction.
Oh, okay.
He says that the strongest frequency comes from having unwavering conviction in your beliefs and your desires.
I think he gives that example of, like, say you're trying to manifest financial abundance, but then you get a parking ticket and it totally throws you off.
Yes.
That shows a weak conviction in your belief, right?
Absolutely. It's so easy to let these little things like derail us,
Yeah.
But every reaction that we have, every emotion, it just shows us what we truly believe deep down.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense now.
Yeah.
So then he brings up this story of Moses, which at first seems a bit random.
Mm.
He talks about how God made Moses a god to Pharaoh to help him overcome obstacles.
Right. And this is where symbolism gets really interesting. So think of Moses as representing each of us and Pharaoh representing our challenges. What if that story is really about the power of conviction when we're facing any obstacle?
So if we can tap into that I am presence, that impersonal energy we were talking about earlier,
Yes.
our conviction becomes the key to accessing it and overcoming anything.
That's a very powerful way to look at it. And to tie it all together, the speaker he finishes by contrasting eyesight with something he calls mindsight.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So he's basically saying, don't be fooled by appearances,
Yeah.
by the temporary problems that you might be dealing with.
Right.
Hold on to the vision of what you want,
Yeah.
the reality that you desire, with total conviction.
Yes. And it's about training your mind to see beyond just your immediate circumstances,
Yeah.
to focus on what you want to create, not just reacting to what's right in front of you right now.
So it's like seeing with the eyes of our mind, not just our physical eyes.
Exactly.
Understanding that what we focus our energy on is what actually shapes our reality.
Yes, that's where true power lies. taking responsibility for what we choose to focus on, becoming conscious creators of our own experience.
That's huge. I mean, that's a really big idea to kind of wrap our heads around.
It
And
is.
so I'm sure a lot of people listening are probably thinking, okay, how do we actually do this? How do we cultivate this mindset?
That's the question.
How do we strengthen our conviction?
Mm.
How do we master our emotions? How do we actually become gods over our own problems?
And that is a fantastic question.
And it's one that we're going to dive into next time.
Yes, we will.
All right, so we've talked about this incredible potential we all have, to become gods over our own problems.
Mm.
But the question is, how do we actually put this into practice?
Well, yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? The speaker gives us some powerful concepts, but doesn't really lay out a step-by-step guide.
Yeah, exactly. So where do we even begin?
Mm.
Maybe with like this idea of conviction.
Okay.
How do we cultivate that unshakable belief, especially when things are getting really tough?
Well, one powerful technique that I've found helpful is visualization.
Okay, visualization. Now, a lot of people might hear that and think, isn't that just like wishful thinking?
Well, not exactly. It's more about creating a vivid mental picture of what you want, of your desired reality,
Yeah.
and engaging all your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? And you really want to try to experience the emotions of it as if it's already happening.
So like if someone's really struggling financially, they might visualize themselves, living abundantly and feeling that sense of security and freedom.
Precisely. And consistency is key. Make it a regular practice,
Yeah.
even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
That makes sense. The speaker also talks about, not being controlled by our emotions and kind of staying balanced even when things go wrong, which is easier said than done, I think.
Oh, absolutely. We're
Yeah.
all human. We're going to have emotions, right?
But it's more about like becoming aware of your triggers, the things that tend to throw you off.
Yeah. And then developing strategies to sort of help you navigate those.
So like what kind of strategies? Because I think we could all use a few of those.
Well, mindfulness practices like meditation can be really, really helpful because they help you observe your thoughts and your feelings without judgment,
Right.
creating a little space between the trigger and your reaction.
So instead of like immediately spiraling into anxiety when something goes wrong,
Yeah.
you can take a breath, acknowledge the feeling,
Yeah,
but not let it completely take over.
exactly. You learn to kind of ride the waves of your emotions without, drowning in them.
Right. Right.
It's very powerful.
Yeah. And speaking of powerful, we were talking earlier about eyesight versus mindsight,
Yes.
about not letting our physical senses kind of define our reality.
Right.
So how do we make that shift?
Well, it starts with, I think, becoming aware of the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
We all have these inner narratives,
Yeah.
often based on past experiences or limiting beliefs.
Like those I'm not good enough or I'll never be able to do that kind of thoughts.
Exactly. And those stories, they can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
actually shape how we see the world and how we act within it.
Wow.
Mindsight is about consciously choosing to rewrite those narratives.
Yeah. So someone who always feels like they're struggling financially, they could start looking for evidence of abundance in their life,
Yes.
focusing on what they're grateful for, and start affirming a new belief.
Right. I am a money magnet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shifting your focus from what's missing to what's already present, even if it's just a tiny seed of potential.
This is all about inner work, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just changing our circumstances. It's about changing our mindset, our whole way of being.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that's why I think the speakers emphasizes the importance of practice and discipline,
Right.
Cultivating mindsight, strengthening your conviction, mastering your emotions. These are ongoing journeys.
It's like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And the rewards are incredible. When we become gods over our problems, we unlock this level of inner power and freedom that most people just dream of.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But before we move on, there's one more thing that the speaker kind of touched on that I'd love to explore a little bit further.
Okay.
And that's this idea of the I am presence.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So it's a concept found in many spiritual traditions.
Okay.
And it refers to pure consciousness.
Yeah.
The very core of our being, the source of our creativity and our connection to something larger than ourselves.
So it's not about ego or personality.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
something deeper, more universal.
Precisely. And the speaker, he suggests that by connecting to this I am presence and aligning our thoughts and our actions with it,
Yeah.
we can tap into a limitless source of wisdom and power.
He uses the example of Moses, who became a god to Pharaoh after encountering this I am presence.
Right. It's like Moses awakened to his own inherent power.
Wow.
And it allowed him to overcome the challenge that he was facing.
So how do we actually connect with this I am presence?
Right.
Is it through meditation? Is it through prayer? Something else?
Well, there are many paths, but one of the simplest and most effective is simply becoming aware of the present moment.
You mean just being here now?
Exactly. Because the present moment is the only place that this I am presence truly exists. It's
Yeah.
not in the past, it's not in the future, it's only right here, right now.
Yeah.
When we quiet the mind and we become present, we create the space for this deeper consciousness to emerge.
So it's not about forcing it.
No.
It's about creating the conditions for it to reveal itself.
Exactly. And the more we cultivate this awareness,
Yeah.
the more we start to see the world through the lens of, this I am presence,
Mhm.
our problems, they start to seem smaller and our potential seems so much greater.
That's such a liberating thought.
It is.
Because it means we're not just victims of circumstance. We're actually co-creators of our reality.
That's the essence of becoming a god over your problems.
Yeah.
Realizing the power within each of us and learning to use it wisely and compassionately.
This has been so insightful.
Yeah.
But I think we all probably need a moment to kind of process everything we've talked about.
I agree. It's a lot to take in,
Yeah.
but it's also incredibly exciting because it opens up a world of possibilities.
So we've talked a lot about this I am presence, but it's still a bit mysterious.
Huh.
How do we know when we're actually connected to it? Is it like a lightning bolt or something?
Well, not necessarily. I think sometimes it's more of a quiet knowing,
Okay.
just a deep sense of peace or clarity.
Hmm.
Or maybe an intuition that you're on the right path, even if you don't have all the answers figured out.
So it's about learning to trust that inner voice,
Yeah.
that gut feeling, even when, things around you feel uncertain.
Exactly. And that trust, that faith in something bigger than ourselves can really help quiet those anxieties and worries.
It's like when we tap into that I am presence,
Yeah.
we discover this inner strength to face challenges head on.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, this isn't about worshiping some external deity, right?
Right.
The speaker's really emphasizing that this I am presence is within each of us. It's
Yeah.
who we are at our core.
Can you go so far as to say that we're all physical manifestations of God?
Yeah, it's a bold statement. It definitely challenges a lot of conventional thinking,
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly empowering because it suggests that we have the potential to create a life that really reflects our highest goals, our deepest values.
This whole deep dive has been about so much more than just solving problems, hasn't it?
Right.
It's about taking ownership of our lives and recognizing the creative power that we have.
Yeah, it's about understanding that we're not just passive bystanders, We are active participants, co-creating our reality with this universal energy, this I am presence.
And when we step into that role, when we
Mhm.
tap into that power, we become gods.
Right.
Not in a conceited way, but in the sense of becoming masters of our own destinies.
That's the heart of it. So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today? I think it's this. You are not defined by your problems. You have within you the power to overcome any obstacle, to create a life that is truly fulfilling. And it all starts with shifting your perspective, building that inner strength, and connecting to that I am presence that is the source of your true power.
We've talked a lot about becoming aware of the stories we tell ourselves, those limiting beliefs we hold on to.
Right.
It's about consciously choosing to rewrite those narratives, to create a reality full of abundance, joy, and purpose.
And it's a journey, not a destination. There will be challenges along the way, but the key is to just keep practicing.
Yeah.
Refining those skills.
Keep showing up.
Keep trusting your own inner wisdom.
We're all on this hero's journey. And each challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow and become the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. By facing our challenges with courage and determination, we unlock this level of power and resilience we never knew we had.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a question that the speaker poses.
Okay.
What is one area of your life that feels most out of control? And how might you be unintentionally feeding its energy?
It's a powerful question that encourages, introspection
Yeah.
and taking responsibility for the reality we're creating.
It's a reminder that we are not victims of our circumstance.
Right.
We have the power to change our reality by changing our thinking.
And that's the beautiful truth. We're not just, pieces being moved around on a game board.
Yeah.
We are the players.
We are.
And we have the power to choose how the game unfolds.
So go out there and play. Experiment. See what works for you. And never underestimate your own power to become a god over your own challenges and create a life that is truly extraordinary.